3, 2, 1.
Good morning, and welcome to our 11th Maths with Miss live in London. Now, remember, and just in case there's any confusion or for any new listeners out there, we're starting afresh with our Beat the Clock board. So let me just spin it round to remind you. So this is what it looks like. It's clear again. We've got all 100 numbers available to cover over the next 10 days or so. Okay. Right. So remember, you know the drill now. 2 pens. So we've got a different color for marking. A ruler if you have one, so you can set your work out neatly, put a margin down the left-hand side, and it all looks fabulous. A book if you have one. Okay, if you've got one, fantastic, particularly if it's a maths book and it's got squared paper, it will again help you set your work out neatly. You do not need a calculator. We don't need that. We're using our, pop it in the chat. What are we using again? We're using our, what are we using? Pop it in the chat for me. We're using our fabulous, enormous, gigantic brains. It's all about half an hour every day, 10 o'clock in the morning, getting those brains pumping, yeah, just for half an hour. You might have got your muscles pumping at 9 o'clock with Joe Wicks. Now it's time for your brain. All right, so we have, as I said, a new grid. So hopefully most of you will have had the chance to pop one of these in your book. If you haven't, don't worry, you can pop it in at the end. Obviously, if you're watching this on catch up, then you can pause it and pop it in your book now. And over the next 10 lessons, we are going to cover up all of those numbers. So let's get started. I need to do some shout outs before I go any further, don't I? So I would like to say hello to Isla. She's aged 11. It was her first session yesterday, and already she said she's getting better at math. So that is music to my ears. I could not be happier. So thank you for that comment, Isla, and welcome back today. Chloe, it is your third time today. That's Chloe, who's the First Steps Dance Dancing. I love that name. I've got some more shout outs here. I've got Janeth, Aaliyah, Amy and Lucas. Now they are my regulars. I think you have been with me almost every single day, which is amazing. I've got some more new people. I've got Maria, who is only 8, but she is doing absolutely brilliantly. I did write down your score somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. You got 11 out of 30 at the age of 8. Absolutely fantastic. And I believe you've got a little sister who's only 1. So we might be stretching it a little bit with her, but we'll see how we go on. Joe Haylock got 30. Wow. As did Lucas yesterday. Silver Dreamer got 29. Aaliyah got 25. And Janeth got 24. So don't forget to pop your scores in the chat. I'm normally the one that forgets to remind you. So we'll do that after we've done our 30 questions. But first, we need to run through yesterday's review questions again. Pop your scores in the chat for me, please. Okay, so here are yesterday's review questions. If you are watching this on catch up and you didn't do them yesterday, you can do them now, can't you? You can pause it, do them now, and then I'm really revealing the answers now. So for those of you who did these yesterday, let's run through them quickly now. So the factors of 32 are 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. 528 divided by 132 is 4. The fractions that are less than 7/9 are 1/2, 2/3, and 3/4. The sum of 17 and -7 is 10. Okay. Remember, you can use a number line to help you on that. And if you flip a coin and roll a dice, the probability that you get tails on your coin and a prime number on your dice, remembering those prime numbers are 2, 3, and 5. 1 is not a prime number. You are going to get a probability of 1/4. Right. Pop your scores in the chat for your review exercise, please. And let's get started with our 30 questions for today. Coming up, here are your first 30 questions. Okay, you've got just under 30 seconds to go. Part 2. 30 seconds to go. Finally, part 3. Thirty seconds to go. Okay, your time is up. Okay, let's start with the answers to question 1. Question 1. 93 is not a prime number. The reason 93 is not a prime number is because it is divisible by 3. Remember, if we add our numbers together, 9 plus 3, that gives us 12. 12 is a multiple of 3, and therefore 93 is in the 3 times table. Question 2, the answer is 12. Question 3, the answer is 67. Question 4, the answer is 12. Question 5, the answer is 8. Question 6, the answer is 12. Question 7. Oh my goodness, I've made a mistake. That should say -8. -8, my apologies. And 63 over 70 in its simplest form is 9/10. Let's scribble that out and write -8. Apologies. Sorry. If you do that. And finally, the parents versus kids challenge, which is a 2-mark question. The probability of getting 2 heads is 1/4. Let's move on to part 2. Part 2. Okay, we want the first 5 multiples of 4. So we've got 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. We have 512 divided by 128. That gives us 4. The factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4. 2,688 divided by 2 is 1,344. How many centimeters are in 33.3 meters? We need to multiply by 100. That means we move the place value 2 to the left. That gives us 3,330 centimetres. Question 6 is 11.04. Question 7, 67.38. Question 8 is 1. Question 9 is 8. 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 gives us 8. And finally, the parent versus kids challenge is 202. Part 3. Okay, if we are rounding to 1 decimal place, we need to look at the number in the second decimal place and see if that rounds the 7 up or whether the 7 stays the same. In this case, it stays the same. 0.7 is your answer. Question 2 is 61.4. Question 3 is 67.21. Question 4, 93. Question 5, 20. Question 6, -12. Question 7, 0.594. Question 8 is yes. And the fractions in order: 1/8, 1/6, 1/4, 1/3, and 1/2. Brilliant. Okay, let's get these numbers up on our fantastic new board.
I'm coming.
Right, so I've got my helper.
I haven't only got one helper. You've got 3.
Oh my goodness, she's got some teddies with her today, so she's got a few additional helpers. So we have 93 is our first one, Rose. If you could read these out for me.
12.
Okay, 93.
Yep, 93.
Was the answer to the first one. Question 2 is 12.
Question 3 is 67. Question
Hold
4
on.
is
Question
12.
3 is 67. So tick these off on your sheet as you go.
Question 4 is 12.
Question 4 is 12. We've got that.
Yep. 5 is 8.
5 is 8. Can you put
We've got 12 again, and then we've got 8.
Okay, got 8. Keep going.
Then we've got 9.
Yep.
Then we've got what shall I do for 1/4?
Nothing. Just come down so I can see the board as well. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the second board. Hold it so I can see it as well. Right. So these are our multiples. Our first 5 multiples of 4.
Okay.
So we have 4.
8.
8 we've done.
12.
12 we've done.
16.
16.
20.
And 20. Brilliant.
Then we've got 4, which we've already
done
got.
that.
1 and 2, and we've already got 4.
Okay, so we need to do 1.
You're obsessed with 4.
These are our factors of 4. 1,
1,324. 1,344.
Yeah, don't need to do that one then. All too big, aren't they?
3,330.
Yeah, all too big, all too big, all too
11.
big. Okay,
11.
let's move on to
11.
the third board.
11. We haven't done 11. Or 67. Yes, we have.
Right, last one. So we've got 61.
93.
We've done 93.
Okay, that's done.
Brilliant. Okay, I think we're done. Hopefully that's right.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
let's get started. Don't ask me. It's got nothing to do with me. Let's get started. Okay, now, actually, just before we do start, I've had a question come in. So let's just read that out. So Silver Dreamer has asked about the review question. Question 4. What is the sum, this one here, what is the sum of 17 and -7? So we're adding these together. Okay, different to before where we were looking at the difference between two numbers. So let me just show you quickly. We're summing 17 and we're adding to it a -7. Now, some of you will be able to look at that and see that we can rewrite that as 17 subtract 7, which gives us 10. But it's not always easy to see that. So remember what I said before when we were doing the difference questions, we can use a number line. So here's my number line. Okay. All right. So remember the question was the sum. There's different ways you can look at it. The sum of 17 and -7. So you're adding those two numbers together. So the way I would look at it is I would probably start at my -7. I would have probably picked smaller numbers if I knew I was going to do this on the board. Okay. And I need to add on. So there's my -7. And I need to add on a positive 17. So I'm going to add on 17. Right, I'm going to have to put more things in, aren't I? Hold on. Bear with me. So I'm adding on 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I've got to here because I've added on 17. So now I need to label all of this. -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1. That's 0. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. If I had more time, I would label it all completely. But hopefully you can see that I've got -7. I'm adding on 17. I'm going to get to 10. The other way you could do it is you could say, well, that is the same as adding on 7 and then adding on 10. And that brings you to your answer of 10. I hope that helps. And thank you very much for raising that question, because negative numbers are tricky. They always confuse us. Let's go with the probability now is the next question I was going to go through. We did a probability question yesterday and we talked about sample space diagrams. So just done another quick example for you. Okay, so this is part 1, question 10, the probability question. Now, if you haven't already done so, don't forget to pop your scores. I've got some 16 out of 30. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, don't worry if you don't get to finish them. Okay, Rose got 7 out of 30. That's my daughter. That's maybe because she was a little bit distracted. But also there are some challenging questions there. And she's only 9. Silver Dreamer got 28. Okay, so please, if you haven't already done so, pop your scores in the chat. Okay, so probability. This is part 1, question 10. It was the probability of getting 2 heads. Here are my coins. Let's start by looking at these. Here are my 2 coins, okay? I want the probability of getting 2 heads. So let's look at all the different combinations we can have, the different potential outcomes. I've got 2 heads. I've got a head and a tail. I've got a head and a tail again, but the other way around. Or I've got 2 tails. Okay, can we see that? So there's actually 4 different outcomes, although sometimes when you look at it, you think, well, there's 3. I can have 2 heads, I can have 2 tails, and I can have 1 of each. So remember, we called that thing yesterday a sample space diagram. So here we have dice. What am I talking about? It's a coin today. Right, so we have a coin 1. We have coin 2. Coin 1 can be a head or a tail. Coin 2 can also be a head or a tail. So let's have a look and see what our options are. I'm sure you will draw it much more neatly than me. This is quite scruffy, isn't it? But you get the idea. Okay, so you don't need those bits. We get rid of those bits. So we can have 2 heads. We can have a head and a tail. we can have a tail and a head, or we can have 2 tails. So we've got 4 potential outcomes, not 3. We've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and remember we said you can have a head or a tail. So there are 2 possible outcomes for coin 1, and there's 2 possible outcomes for coin 2, and we can multiply those together. 2 multiplied by 2 gives us 4 different outcomes. So let's go back to our question. The question was the probability of 2 heads. So that's one of our outcomes out of 4 potential outcomes. All right. The other way of doing it, which is really stretching you because this is proper key stage 3 stuff, is to say the probability of coin 1 landing on a head is 0.5 or a half, because there's 2 options. So we can do 1/2. Probability of coin 2 landing on a head is also 1/2. Multiply them together, and that gives us our 1/4. Okay, but I like setting it out like this because when we can visualize it and we can understand why. Okay, let's move on to just a little bit of a recap on multiples and factors, because that's one area where all the time people get them muddled up and they write down the factors for the multiples and vice versa. So let's just recap on that. Okay, so let's start with our multiples. This was part 2, question 1. Remember, when you hear the word multiples, you think that fabulous brain of yours, you think times tables. So if I ask you for the multiples of 4, I'm going to write the first 5 numbers in my 4 times table. Those are the multiples of 4. Okay. Factors. That was part 2, question 3. This time you were asked to list the factors of 4. So this is the multiples of 4. We're now going to write the factors of 4. Now, we talked about this all the way back at the start when I first started doing this. And we talked about different ways you could represent it. You could do a table where you say 1 multiplied by 4 is 4. 2 multiplied by 2 gives us 4. And 3, well, that doesn't work. And then we stop. We've covered all the numbers. We also talked, do you remember this? We talked about drawing a factor bug with big goggly eyes, the number 4. And we worked out how many legs he would have. And you may even recall that we talked about the fact, hold on, let's move that back a little bit so you can see. We talked about the fact that if it's a prime number, your factor bug can only have 2 legs. Normal numbers, not special numbers, they have an even number of factors, because normally there'd be another number here that you would multiply by 2 to get to 4, except when you've got a square number. So when you've got a square number like 4, look, it's got an odd number of legs. It's got an odd number of factors. Right, we are going to do just one more, I think, and then we'll finish off. I've overrun slightly because, and I'm getting told off about my pointer again. I've obviously made a little bit of a challenge for myself there, remembering to use the pointer and remembering everything else I've got to go through. So I'm just going to do one more question now, Then I'm going to leave you with the review questions. But I do just want to talk about that rounding question before we go for the day. So the rounding question, let's put a little title here of rounding. This was a part 3 question, and it was the first question, question 1. And the question was to round 0.7475. Right, now the question said to 1 decimal place, but you will sometimes see it written like this, to 1 DP. Okay, it means exactly the same thing. So there's a little rule here. In fact, I'm going to invite Rose. She doesn't know I'm going to do this, so it could go horribly wrong. I'm going to invite Rose because she taught me this. Okay, how can you remember whether or not this 4 turns the 7 into an 8 or it stays as a 7? Can you remember what you told me? Face the camera.
My teacher told me if a little rhyme to help me remember, and it goes 5 or more, add 1 more, 4 or less, leave to rest.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. 5 or more, add 1 more, 4 or less, leave to rest. So let's have a look. This is the number 4. 4 or less, leave to rest. So that means if we are rounding to 1 decimal place, this is our first. Remember, I can use DP as an abbreviation for decimal place. This is my first decimal place. Okay, so I don't care about the 7 and I don't care about the 5. I only care about this number 4 here. And 4 or less, leave to rest. So this is going to stay as 0.7. We're going to do some more practicing on decimal points in the coming days. Okay, I was going to cover off the ordering fractions question. I'm going to save that for tomorrow. I'm getting my message loud and clear again. I don't actually know where I put my pointer. Here it is. Okay, I try to use it every now and again, but I keep forgetting. Joe, you only have to remind me once, not 20 times, okay? There we go. 0.74. We ignore the 7, we ignore the 5. The 4 is less than 5, so it doesn't change this 7 here. It stays at 0.7. There you go. That's just for you, Joe. Okay. Oh, hold on. We've got a suggestion here. I learned 1, 2, 3, 4, leave it as it was before, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, round it up on the number line. I love that. I'm going to use that one as well. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, Chloe. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Chloe. Right, I'm going to put your review questions up now. And a little bit of music. We need a bit of music, don't we, after all this talking I've done? There we go. Right, I'm going to leave you now. I will see you. Oh, actually, tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to record the lesson because I'm meeting some of this year 6s tomorrow who will be my year 7s in September. So that will be a recorded lesson, but you'll still be able to watch it in exactly the same way. Get those questions down in your books. And just a reminder, if you haven't already done so, here is your 10 by 10 grid. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow.